I think that's enough of that. Welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. All right. We will be going over the poll today. Generally, we'll talk a little bit about the debate, of course. That whole thing where you guys have to wait for like 2 minutes, hopefully that'll be over real soon. There's something new that is being offered to certain Getter users. And as long as we can make it work and make it cut in, that's what the delay is about. I've had like several people say, why is there always a delay between one and the other? It's just the way Getter Live works, but they have changed that, and we just haven't implemented it yet. I imagine we're in the line for a demo at some point, but a lot of people watch on Getter, so we want the best experience that we can give for Getter. All right. Wow. Let's look at the graphic first, shall we? And we'll talk about the Republican nomination. There is, normally when we do these polls, there's not really a whole lot to talk about with the Democratic nomination because, look, it's incredibly difficult to beat an incumbent president. At the beginning, especially during the crowded field, what was so noteworthy is that Joe Biden was very clearly a very weak incumbent president. When we did the crowded field, he was routinely in the 30s, the low 30s, which we were not the only ones to find. And then when we started to whittle it down, Robert Kennedy Jr., Marianne Williamson, he started to rise, but he wasn't impressive. I mean, for sitting, look, folks, Trump won like more than 80, 90%. So did Barack Obama, even he. And by the way, Obama had certain regional issues, like in West Virginia and Arkansas, in Appalachia, America. He had certain regional issues, but, nothing really. You knew his vote was going to fall. And he would probably be the first president ever to have his vote fall and be reelected because Mitt Romney was just so awful. And it happened exactly that way. With Joe Biden, it was different, though. It wasn't regional. It's across the board. And he had a difficult time even approaching 70 in our poll. And I think it is noteworthy, which we'll point out in a second, that he is doing better in this poll for the Democratic nomination that he has in any other poll we've conducted this year. All right. Let's look at the Republican, because that is the one that obviously is getting all the attention. And then we'll look at the crosstab. Originally last night for locals and YouTube members, for local supporters and YouTube members, they got the early release of it, as is what you get when you sign up and become a supporter in some way. You're going to get things early. You saw that it was, for a while, a Google Sheet. We've had issues with people doing DDoS attacks and brute force attacks on the platform that we use for crosstabs. And there's an issue that their tech company has been working on for us for a while. It does appear that these public links that we have set up are loading up beautifully. So we did switch them off. But we went through a test period where let's see how it would perform. Now the poll is going nuts. It's going bananas today. I know I've gotten a million text messages about it. So it's making the rounds. And it seems that it's loading up just fine. So great. But there was a Google Sheet version of it, which is a frozen first column. So you can scroll over and see all the demographics. That's how it exports because of the way the graphics are interactive when they're in MarketSite. And we'll look at the interactive version. But first and foremost, let's look at some key demographics in the Republican nomination for president, August 2023. Sampling error is very small in the overall survey. And in the Republican sampling error and Democratic sampling errors, they're also very, very small. It was a very large poll. All right, so the overall sampling error for the survey is about 2%, actually a little less. If you expect about 160 million to turn out, or more, actually, it was 163 point something, which is nuts. But it looks like it's going to happen, and we're going to show you why. 2.7% for the Republican, plus or minus 2.7% overall sampling error, 2.8% for the Democratic sampling error. There are more people who are going to vote in the Republican primary than there are who are going to vote in the Democratic primary. But Democrats are no schlubs. They're going to vote. And for an incumbent president, it's going to look like a very impressive number of votes for an incumbent nomination contest. Renomination. That would have been the case in 2020. You saw Trump breaking all sorts of records, and then COVID hit, which collapsed primary turnout. Okay, but before that, Republicans were no schlubs, and in many cases, making Democrats look like fools in Iowa, in New Hampshire, even though he's just an incumbent president. So just keep that in mind. All right, a little bit of a reshuffling of the deck, but a little bit about methodology first. We will be putting out the detailed PDF, which we always do with the Public Polling Project, that will show you exactly how the online was designed, how the phone component was designed, how it was weighted, how are each subgroups represented, what are their overall subgroups, sampling errors, because remember, sampling errors for subgroups are higher. Everywhere from now on, you're going to see it clear as day. It is important to note that sampling errors for subgroups are higher, because I really think pollsters are, especially the new unskew the polls movement, it really lying to you about a bunch of things, and that's unfortunate. And one of the things they're lying to you about is the difference in sampling errors for subgroups and how that can obfuscate a trend and what pollsters should be looking for, even though those subgroup errors are higher, what they should be looking for in order to see trends and true trends in subgroups. All right, so we'll get into that a lot, but for those of you who know the Public Polling Project, you know how it's generally done. Lucid is who we used. That is a company that we our folks merged with. That's always what we have always done. Lucid is great. Yeah, I'm not going to get into it. It's just I need to do a whole entire episode about how like YouGov and others who have not done a great job in the process are now starting to get responses from us. So like purchasing responses. So they have their own consumer panel data set, and part of it's demand, part of it's trying to retool. But basically, that's the way it is. All right. Let's see. So where are we at? And then, of course, where does the phone component come from? The voter file, as always. And we'll get into what that looks like. Let me just, because this is up right here. DeSantis did better in the first day, especially on the phone component, maybe going into day two, but not really. He was starting to collapse immediately. Like I could see it immediately, but he did still comparatively better in the phone than he did online. And his day one support level among self-identified conservatives and Republicans is what kept him from falling below Vivek. Had we been in the field for one more day, it's very, very likely that Vivek would be ahead right now. Okay. Vivek is doing better among moderate Republican primary voters and suburban primary voters than Ron DeSantis is doing. Ron DeSantis is in what is a textbook free fall. He probably will hit single digits very soon. I don't know how he's going to recover from it. Worse still, many of his votes went to Trump. There was a reshuffling here. So you see Trump's at 56. Last time, what was he at 58? I mean, it's right in the survey sampling error. There's no difference. What did jump out at me immediately was that there was a reshuffling somewhat within education. Okay, and you can clearly see that Trump, among high school or less, Trump is getting almost just about 6 out of 10 Republican primary voters who have a high school education or less. He actually ticked higher with some college and associates and is now taking 60% as well. The advanced post-grad degrees We've seen him take a plurality of them, but never that strong. But that's not actually, he has been pretty close to 40%, but that's not even it. The 4-year college degree being now at 54% is a direct result of DeSantis losing votes from college voters and them going back to Donald Trump. I mean, of course, there's some others here and there, but this is the death knell. It's over. This is it. You cannot beat anyone, let alone someone like Donald Trump, who has a support base that Donald Trump has in a Republican primary. If you're going to lose the high school or less and some college or an associate degree by these kind of margins, you cannot let the front runner get 60% of both of those categories and not do even better than that with the combined educated vote. So even if they keep the advanced post-degree support for Trump at 35%, they'll come nowhere near him. Now you can see the 4-year college graduate is back with Donald Trump, and it's a majority outside the sampling era. Could it change, folks? Yeah, sure. I mean, it's possible that Joe Biden will be convicted by the U.S. Senate if the House impeaches him. It's possible Ukraine can beat Russia in the war. It's possible we'll actually know who killed JFK. Are you kidding me? Historically, it's just not likely. Urban vote is Donald Trump's secret weapon. Even when he was hurting in the suburbs, his urban vote share has been his secret weapon. His non-white urban vote share, which tells us they intend to vote, many of them. But he doesn't even need that, because you would think the more moderate, liberal even, Republican primary voter in urban areas, in Cincinnati and Philadelphia, right, would go to somebody else, would go to Ron DeSantis. It's not happening. Will there be some exceptions like, Sioux in Iowa or, whatever, Des Moines? Maybe not even Trump is ahead in Des Moines. I don't know. There may be some of course, there's always exceptions to the rules, but the man is almost at 60% of the urban Republican primary vote. He is over 60% of the rural Republican primary vote. And that's going to matter in a second, because I'm going to show you the likelihood to vote. We were, I believe, very generous as far as our weights. We did not. It's so early. I wanted to cast a big net. If this was a poll that was conducted before, right before people started to vote, it would have a tighter screen. And I'm telling you two things right now. Trump would have a bigger lead. It would be closer to 60%, which I'm going to show you in a second. It would be about 59.8 or something. And Joe Biden would be slightly, we'll get into Joe Biden would not be performing as well. All right. But in any event, suburban vote now, too, is behind Donald Trump. Let's look at the difference in those categories before we move on. Actually, no, let's stick with it. Evangelicals, we've had Steve Deese endorsements, the Bob Vanderplaats endorsements, a bunch of pastors who come out, they're trying to get him Iowa, and yet Donald Trump's lead among evangelicals is literally almost 40 points nationally. 37 points, about, ballpark. Non-evangelicals, 35 points, 36 actually. Conservatives, this is a big deal. Once a Republican candidate for president begins to win more than 60% of the conservative vote, it is incredibly difficult to beat them. Why? Because then you'll start to see other demographics fall in line. The college demographics, area demographics, religious demographics, all of the things that we always chop these voters up by, which I don't like. But when you see them ideologically that consolidated behind one candidate, that is when it really begins to fall apart for other candidates. And as you will see, I mean, Trump is way ahead with liberal Republicans, way ahead. He doesn't have a majority quite of moderates, but he's way ahead. Not at all what we saw 4 months ago. This is a much more decided race, and we're going to see that too as well. So let's look at Vivek and DeSantis. DeSantis overall 12.3%, Vivek 11.4% within a statistical tie. I'm not even going to comment basically on Mike Pence. I only put him in there because He's the only other candidate above 5%. He's not worth talking about. He has zero chance. Now, if you want to dissect what his base is, what his coalition is, that's why I did it. It's a little bit hard to even argue that Mike Pence has a base, has a coalition. He's supposed to be Mr. Evangelical. He's doing worse than a candidate who's a Hindu faith. I mean, it's unbelievable. Anyway, moving on. Even self-identified conservatives, 4.8. Evangelicals, 5.3. I mean, this I will say is the statistical tie with Vivek and DeSantis. DeSantis, like I said, is probably going to continue to fall. He was falling as we exited the field. I saw that CBS News poll that came out as we entered the field. I saw that they had just exited, and I saw, they could see DeSantis was falling. I mean, he was down 6 points from the prior poll, or 4 points, or something like that. But they missed his complete drop, because I saw their final day looked very close to our first day. And so they missed Vivek's full surge, which he more than doubled his support in our poll. And I believe he did in theirs as well. They only ever had him at like 3%. But what is going to hold Vivek back is that he needs to break more into conservatives, self-identified conservatives, Republican registration voters, and Republican identified voters. Evangelicals, he's at 10%. DeSantis is only at 13 himself, so it's not like it's that far away. But things that make you more of a Republican candidate. So he most assuredly is doing better in the suburbs. Urban and rural areas about the same, but he's more like a suburb appeal right now. You can see, like I said, he's actually doing better than Ron DeSantis is in the suburbs. 13.8, 12.2. Of course, it is within the era, but worth noting. And then you can see that his base is largely split. He's got 15% of post grads, but he's also got like 11% of like some college votes, which is a big chunk, or 12% actually. So it is slightly more educated though, Vivek. You could see it go down as the education level decreases. Or what did we say, Laura? What's the real term now? Credentialed. As the level of credentialed go down. You can see Vivek is actually doing worse than DeSantis among those who have a high school level education or less, or went to secondary school of some kind, like a vocational school, stuff like that also is in there. So he's got a very limited appeal right now, but his surge is absolutely real. As you can see, there is still more voters are undecided that have advanced degrees than have high school degrees. But as we're going to show you in the crosstab in a second, the high school graduate category, that slice of the electorate is, and some college associate, by the way, as well, so much bigger than advanced and post grads. By the way, that's true of a general and a Republican primary, but even more true of a Republican primary, that they're about the same amount of votes that are still up for grabs. All right. Overall, we are now down to 5% undecided. Only 1.3% said someone else. Just to give you everybody else's numbers, Nikki Haley came in at 2.93%. Chris Christie came in at 2.0 flat, 2%. Tim Scott came in at 1.9% flat. Tim Scott has early state appeal, and that is it. He does not have any national appeal. That's why he's so weak in a national polling. Larry Elder came in at 1% rounded, 0.5. Will Hurd, same thing, 0.5. Asa Hutchinson, 0.3. Ryan Binkley, 0.3. Perry Johnson, 0.3. Francis Suarez, 0.2. Someone else, 1.3. And yes, I did get people afterwards who said, wait, you started the poll. Did you add Ryan Binkley? Yes, we did. We got him. And I could thank Robert Cahaley for that, by the way, because I caught that on his. All right, let me take a link from, is this my link or the public's link? Well, let me just open this one. It's going to open. I'll replace the other one with it. Oh, wait a minute. I thought we redid the link here. Yeah, let me just refresh it. All right. So that's refreshed. This should open up the interactive link from Apple. Yeah, there it is. Wow, super fast. God bless the tech team. Super fast. Good job, guys. Good job. You know what? It's incredibly difficult to have a client like me. And because we're in the public light, this crap happens. It happens to nobody else. I actually had to convince them that there are people out there who have nothing better with their life. They have nothing in their lives. They have nothing better to do with their lives and their time but to do something stupid like that. All right. So as you can see, there's slightly more voters who say that they will participate in the Republican primary than the Democratic primary. But let's go through voting certainty before we move anywhere else. All right. So age. This is the basic age group, exit poll age group. Let's go to detail though, right? Which is also only we had one more 75 plus. So you can see super seniors versus regular seniors. In truth, super seniors are less than the 65 to 75 at this point in our demographic history, whatever you want to call it. So I like to show both 18 to 24, 25 to 29. These are numbers you would expect right before a general election. I mean, I actually went back and looked at it from 2020. The certainty to vote level for voters who are 30 and above is unbelievably striking. It's unbelievably high. To me, this is insane. People are going to vote. This is going to be a very high turnout election if this continues. Why? Because the perception is it's a rematch. I'm going to show you in a minute what will happen if Donald Trump is not on the ballot. But we have 5 minutes before the first break. So let me try to get as much as we can when it comes to vote likelihood. When we come back, we'll look at some other stuff. But look at moving on to race. This is now the second poll in a row where we have Hispanic and Latinos with a greater certainty to vote than Black and African American voters. It is even true that in the certain to vote is like more than 90% certainty. All right. And you know, for those who never, who don't know this, have never heard us explain this, likely is less than certain, but greater than 50%. So it's more likely than not. All right. And then there's possible to vote, which we used to dub unlikely, but we're confused people. They do come out, and you just have to peg how much of them is going to come out. They are greater than 0, but less than 50-50. So usually the ones we count, we dub around 30% likely to vote, especially this early. And then as time goes on, we'll screen them out. The second row is of people who say they're likely. It's greater than 50% certainty. That is still higher than African Americans. Hispanics are essentially close, if not on par, with Asian voters who vote like crazy. White voters are obviously the most. They typically are, even though there had been some elections with Barack Obama where they did not vote at as high rates. Or they did. I just said that backwards, right? Elections with Barack Obama, they voted at higher rates. Without him, they didn't, right? So we're now returning to whites being able to be potentially 71% of the electorate, something ballpark like that. Democrats, very, very likely to vote. Republicans also slightly more likely to vote. Independents, 76.3, always much lower, but you might take note of the 16%, which is double that of Republicans and almost double that of Democrats, who are greater than 50-50 likelihood. So believe me, they will come out, although we have them at this point, they're about 26% of the electorate, which is not... it will be a partisan electorate, very partisan. We have it about even, by the way. All right, liberals and conservatives are the most likely to vote. Education levels also, it always, as you get higher in education, it gets more certain. However, high school or less should be around 50-something% this early, and it is not. It is way high. Same thing with all income groups. The disabled, unemployed who are not looking anymore, people who basically gave up on the American dream. This is important because, as Barnes and I have talked about before, the difference between this year and both 2016 and 2020 is that Trump is winning this group and this group, which is always, almost always a Democratic constituency. In 2016 and 2020, Trump did win he did better with this, but he did not win them. He won these overwhelmingly, and he won unemployed looking overwhelmingly, and employed full-time overwhelmingly, along with retired overwhelmingly. And now this is a lot more diverse of a coalition. Union voters and non-union voters, about the same likelihood. Union types, you always have private sectors that are a little bit less than public, and this time it's a little. We'll keep an eye on that and see if that continues to be the case. Married couples are extremely likely to vote. That's always true. People who have children are more likely to vote. Protestants are more likely, along with Catholics. They're just as likely as Jewish. Jewish voters vote at very high rates. Evangelicals and non-evangelicals are very close. So, this is, want to get to this bottom line. The region isn't even that important. There's nothing extraordinary about region. South's a little bit less likely. It's honestly a little bit surprising, but this is astonishing. Rural voters, 1.4 points away from suburbs. I don't know, how much I want to put into that, but it's noteworthy because it's very rare that rural voters are that much more juiced than suburban and urban voters. Yet that is the case. And the difference between urban and suburban is significant. So rural voters are pissed and they're coming out. Let's see if we can get some of the basics in before we go to the break. Right track, wrong track, 27.4% think the country's headed in the right direction, 63.7% do not. Biden's approval most definitely had a little bit of a comeback in our polling. I know people are like, oh my God, how could 43.7% approve him? Look, it is what it is. It's also a likely voter screen. So they are more favorable to Joe Biden than overall registered voters. Okay. Which is different. But this is what I brought up the other day to people, and nobody wants to listen. The premise data poll shows the same thing. Voters who are disconnected from the process are like Trump plus 10, Trump plus 16, depending on the poll. If Republicans were smart, they wouldn't be spending $1 billion trying to defeat the guy who's the only one who's won an election for them in 2 decades, damn near. And they would be spending that money going out and registering those voters where Trump is ahead by 16 points. By the way, even DeSantis is slightly ahead among that group. Not by that much, but any more that you get registered is going to benefit you. They're so dumb. Like I said, yes, I've developed a certain chuckle for it now. I have the Republican is stupid chuckle. All right, we got to get to a commercial break. Is there anything I want to throw in there real quick? Nah, with that, we're there. All right, let's take that commercial break really quick. And when we come back, we will go over the different elections and stuff like that. Or commercial break. You know what I mean. But folks, I mean, this is something that's got to be, Republicans, you got to be extremely, or you should be extremely frustrated with the decisions of your party. They are incredibly dumb people. And they're hurting your ability to win elections. I don't know how if it was Democrats, they would be having a canary right now. A total canary. All right. Now let's go full stream. Yeah. So, all right, let's take a quick break and we'll come back and do the rest. Look, folks, it's not just about incompetent leadership, weather events, right? We're still in hurricane season, but authorities do worry that extremists are targeting the power grid. It's just 9 key substations would go down. It would knock out power across the country for up to 18 months. If we were honest with ourselves, you have to admit that your life would be frozen in time the moment that the power went out. We have a natural gas generator, still need a solar generator. That's what Laura and I that's what Laura and I have done for our family. That's what you need to do for yours as well. That's why you need the Patriot Power Generator, the new one, the 2000X. It's portable, but it's powerful enough to power your phones, even maybe yours or your family's medical devices, even your refrigerator. And by the way, it's now stackable, where you can add extra components for more power. It's unbelievable. Go to 4patriots.com. Use the promo code TPP10 at checkout. That's promo code TPP10 at checkout to get 10% off of the new Patriot Power Generator today. Now, this code works for your first purchase no matter what it is, but make it count. right? And by the way, they have a great deal right now with the Patriot Power Generator 2000X, along with extra panels, and you will still stack with this discount code. So go again once more to 4patriots.com, use the promo code TPP10 at checkout to get your Patriot Power Generator today. All right. Yeah, I love that thing. I really do. All right. So let's get back to the crosstabs. Right back to the crosstabs. Right back in it because there's so much I need to show you. All right, so Biden's approval, like I said, actually ticked up a little bit, which is probably, listen, there's something I need to say actually about that because I think there's, how could I put this? Uh, hmm, the non-educated vote, and we're just not going to overly weight. I'm not going to go below a certain percentage when it comes to weighting efficiency. It was a large sample, and you have to just trust your sample. However, the non-college vote was a little young in this one, just a little bit. Maybe that's part of it. Maybe it's part of the people. There's some slight swings. I don't know. But Joe Biden's approval rating did rise, and the general election matchup got tighter. But you know what? I'm over there looking at it, and I'm thinking to myself, I actually believe this one more. I do. Do I think that the Trump plus 5s and 8s that we had over the last 14 months or so were legit? Absolutely. I just don't think at the end of the day, when we get closer to the election, and why do I think it tightened this time? I think it tightened this time because people are starting to realize no matter what they do to Donald Trump, he still is the odds-on favorite. And I think they're starting to hear people like Larry Sabato, who are saying, if you don't think this guy is going to be the nominee, you're out of your mind. Like, he's going to be the nominee. So barring them pulling something that removes them from the ballot, which would be an absolute catastrophe, and apocalyptic, the veil will absolutely come undone. I'm going to show you what would happen. Barring that, it's a rematch. And I think that the swings are still there, though. And we'll take a look at the 2020 vote. Biden did a little bit better with the new voter this time, actually quite a bit better, but he did much worse with the 2020 vote. So especially third-party votes, which is interesting. All right. So let's pull this up. Let's do full screen so you can see it. You can't see it here. All right. So that's it. Let's look at the Republican presidential nomination. Not a whole lot to say here. Trump is way ahead. We looked at it in the graphic, 56-12. Vivek and DeSantis are well within the sampling error of each other. Trump has got a majority of every single major exit poll age group. When we do the not major but detail groups, Trump is lacking a majority only in the 18 to 24 category, which you see here. He still has an overwhelming lead. Much of that comes from the fact that they are among the most, one of the most to be undecided. But that's the way look, younger voters tend to be more undecided this early. And that's just where it is. But 25 to 29, he's at 56%. 30 to 39, he's at 59%. 40 to 49, he continues his strength with this age group, which is a massive swing from 2020, by the way. 64%, 50 to 64, 54%, 65 to 74, which was a problem for him at one point, if you remember. That's the voter. If you were educated and older, you were, more likely to choose DeSantis or someone else. Now Trump is at 55% with this group, and even among super seniors, which have the most traditional Republican groups, 51%. Friday, we're not going to do it today because there's not enough time, but Friday, we did ask Republicans about Republican identification. It continues to get more America first than traditional Republican. And we're going to look at some interesting demographics with who is America first, who's traditional. It's continuing this trend we have told you. Hispanic new Republicans are the most America first group in the entire country. Super smart to forsake the America first movement, right? Remember after 2012, when Mitt Romney lost and did the autopsy, they said, we need to somehow appeal to Hispanic voters and bring these new voters into the fold. There you go. There's your new way. They're so dumb. part of me, folks, honestly, and you got to be look, in my business, you always got to stay objective, but part of me really wants to see what happens if Republicans are dumb and don't listen. I really do. This election is going to be very difficult for Republicans to win, period. They're way behind on infrastructure. They suck. They're too busy fighting each other in a house divided cannot stand. They only have one candidate who can generate enough turnout to even pose a threat. And they're doing everything in their power to sacrifice him basically at the altar of their crooked, corrupt, and stupid party. And part of me wants them to get crushed with like 58 million votes. I don't know how that can't be the thesis of every kid's like advanced degree in political science for years to come. All right, white and Hispanics, Trump is at 56%. DeSantis at 13.4. Hispanics, Trump is just over 60. Black voters, majority. Asian voters among his weakest. Native Indian, there's Native American Indian, Alaskan Native, very small always, but we do this in national polling. It's not that small for a general election, but it is small for a Republican primary. 59 to 22. Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander is actually Nikki Haley, I believe, is doing the best with them. And then other race, ethnicity, Trump is at 65. So eventually I'll add a demographic that just says non-white. All right. Or not actually Asian other is what I'll do. So we can combine the very, very small subsamples to get something in the ballpark of African-American and Hispanics. You can see Hispanics are going to make up ballpark around 10% of the Republican primary vote, at least. African Americans may make up as much as like 8% this time, 6 to 8%. It's getting more non-white, and Republicans should be celebrating that. Instead, they're dumb. Trump is winning the Democrats that are eligible to vote in a Republican primary. Nationally, we know from your location whether or not you are eligible to participate. Is it an open primary? We don't play games like some of the other pollsters. Republicans, Trump is at almost 60% basically in support with Republicans. Independent and others, he's beating Vivek 45 to 18. Ron DeSantis is now at 8.1. I told you, among independents, suburbans, and moderates, Vivek is actually doing better than Ron DeSantis. Among independents and third-party voters who are eligible, 18% will vote for Vivek, 8% for Ron DeSantis. I mean, Vivek is like more than double where Ron DeSantis is. Remember, that was supposed to be his lane. His lane is gone. Liberals are overwhelmingly Trump, although it is just under a majority. Trump is also winning moderates, over 4 in 10 of them. Vivek is doing better with them than DeSantis, 13 to 12. DeSantis is doing slightly better than Vivek, 9 to 7 with liberal primary voters. And then conservatives, this is what saved Ron DeSantis from falling into third place. In the beginning of the survey fielding, he did better with conservatives. Vivek started to do better with them, but it did appear, unless we would have continued one more day, DeSantis probably would have just averaged down in the third place. That probably would have happened anyway. But it's interesting to see whether Vivek can continue to get more conservative votes. If he can't, he's going to have a ceiling that's lower than DeSantis's. All right, because that's how DeSantis got to the 20s. That's how he got in our poll. He's a high of 31%. That was from winning large shares of conservative and Republican vote. It never was Ron DeSantis doing better with independents and moderates. That's actually not true. That was never true. And if it was, you would have saw DeSantis doing better in urban areas, which would have been, that's what was expected. That's why Jessica Patterson tried to change the rules in California. That's why they were doing that. Massachusetts was trying to pull the same thing. A lot of these plans got pulled back, not because, I think, California got loomered. And, there were certainly other people who had a hand in that, including myself. But it's not just that. I think at the end of they're looking at the numbers. It wouldn't have mattered. It honestly wouldn't have mattered as much if the trend continued. All right, you know this. We already talked about this. The education thing is the nail in the coffin. It really is. Under 30,000, 60, 30 to 50, 60, 50 to 100. That's the core of the Republican Party, 57, 100 to 200, 50. The rich people, not even but richer, I would say, more well off, 200 or more, is Trump's worst group with 43%, yet he's still winning them with a plurality. You can see DeSantis is still doing better with upper income groups than he is doing with lower income groups. Again, if you are disconnected from the system, like you're disabled or something like that, you're unemployed, you're a Trump group overwhelmingly, retired, even students, full-time employees. I mean, it's just totally across the board, folks. There's no lane. There's no lane. This is what people don't seem to understand. Hold on a second. There's no lane. It doesn't matter if he ticks down a point or two one month, ticks up a point or two the next month, all within the same lane. There's no lane. They're all going on stage tonight to do what? Make the Murdochs richer. That's it. And by the way, let Larry Elder debate. It's such a dumb rule to be polling at 1%. 1% is a sampling error. Rona, do you realize in most of the polls that you so-called approve that anyone at like 5% or below can generally be considered tied with each other? All of those candidates, they're equally abysmal. You are aware that's basic statistics. Such a dumb rule. And Larry Elder didn't sell cards or offer fundraising bribes to meet the threshold. He just did it. Not that I'm a big Larry Elder fan. I just think it's totally BS. You're having a kiddie pool debate tonight. The main event is not even going to be there. You have done everything in your power, along with Fox, to rig this thing for DeSantis. It didn't work. It's not going to work. Let Larry Elder debate. What's the difference? Vivek, by the way, should generally, like I said, he's less than a point behind Ron DeSantis. I'm not even sure there is a center stage tonight. There's not. Ron is totally collapsing. And the RNC's own internal poll that they did with Echelon Insights showed Vivek in second. I don't know how many of you know that or how often that's been reported, but I can tell you this because I know it. They hired Echelon Insights to do a poll, and Vivek was a point higher than DeSantis. Very close to our polling, by the way. Extremely close. So there it is. I mean, Trump's married couples, widowed couples, divorced couples, separated, single, all majorities. Parents with kids over 18, majority. One or more school-age children under 18, majority, headed towards super majority. One or all under 18, but not yet school-aged, majority. No kids, majority. Protestant, majority. Catholic, majority. Jewish, just under a majority. Muslim, more than 4 in 10. Another religion, 60%. No religion, almost 60%. I mean, this is freaking ridiculous. Evangelicals, Donald Trump is beating the guy who gets all the evangelical endorsements by more than 46 points. It's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable that we're even here. No, I'm not an evangelical, 36 points. No opinion, 49 points. Urban voters, 58 to 13. Suburban voters, 52 to 12. By the way, suburban voters, right? Mr. Weakness in the suburbs. Rural voters, 61 to 12. And actually, I should have said this another way. The suburbs is really 52 to 14 because Vivek is in second in the suburbs. This is unbelievable. In the Northeast, 59 to 11. In the Midwest, 53 to 12. In the South, 57 to 12. In the West, 53 to 15. Among those who are absolutely certain to vote, this is why I was telling you, Trump's lead is much bigger. He is almost at 60%. That is why CBS YouGov had him closer to 62. DeSantis at 13, Vivek's at 12. Among those who voted for Trump, that's actually really cool to go through crosstabs. The new voters, Trump is carrying 57 to 11. Non-new voters, he's carrying 55 to 13. He's winning Jorgensen voters over Vivek and DeSantis, but Mike Pence is taking 25% of them as well. And you'll see Mike Pence's vote is a never Trump vote to the core. It has no real base there's no other way to discern what a Mike Pence voter is other than it's really a Democrat who thinks they're a Republican from like the Bush era. That's it. And Vivek, by the way, with third-party votes, is actually doing the best with those who didn't vote for Joe Jorgensen, but vote for like someone else who was a third party. It's such a small sample, though. It is. Okay, let's get down to it, shall we? We'll go to the Democrats in a second. Republican candidate support. I'm skipping over into segment 3 or 2. Isn't it 2 or 3? I don't know. We're just going to blend this all together, shall we? Thank you to a wonderful suggestion by one of our, I believe, local supporters. And if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. And I can't remember who did it during one of the Freewheelin' Friday Q&As. But they said, and I'm like 90% sure it was a woman. So if you know who you are, come forward, give yourself credit. It was a question during the Q&A that Laura had grabbed, and it said, listen, we talk about the write-in thing all the time. And by the way, just recently, Trump won a write-in special election for some local office out west. What are the odds, pun intended, that those who say that they will not vote, which was getting to be like 20-something% among Trump voters, if Trump is not the nominee, what are the odds? How many of them would write him in instead? And given where we are and all the news and everything they're trying to do, I thought that was just a fantastic idea. And I said, all right, let's do it. Not only will we say the typical, but we're going to ask also about write-ins. This question has evolved over time. It is the question that has been designed, and we are the pollster who came up with this idea to decide how to measure the Trump or bust vote, which is we knew was real. Now all other pollsters are using the phrase Trump or bust, and that's fine with me. It would be nice to get credit for it, but it's fine with me because at least they're confirming what we all knew, which is of course it's real. And the only question is it bigger than those who say they would never vote for Donald Trump? That will determine who the strongest candidate is. It's very simple. Forget about this suburban woman voter argument, which is total nonsense. Only simpletons who listen to the media don't understand that that is not the real swing vote anymore, that Republicans need to win elections. It's just not. They did slightly better with them in 2022, better than many of them even projected they would do. They still got crushed because they did not bring out enough of Trump's vote, which is not an educated suburban woman. All right. We added to this question, thinking about the general election, and this is called piping. Pollsters know what I'm talking about. We're taking the choice that they gave us from the primary question, and that whatever choice they made is what is funneled or piped into this question, and it will change dynamically depending on who it was. Thinking about the general election, if your choice does not receive the Republican nomination, would you vote for the party's nominee, consider voting for the Democratic nominee, the third party nominee, not vote at all, or write in your choice? Now, they're going to have the head-to-head matchups that are going to tell us whether or not how many people are serious and how many are not. We're not giving them an option to opt out after asking them this question. So you can't tell us I would not vote. All right. We're going to start doing both actually in the future because I'm just looking at, I wanted to know though, since I didn't want to change too much all at once. All right. So now that I feel comfortable enough, I'll do it. When we look at the people who say they won't vote or they'll write in Donald Trump, they are choosing someone else and they are choosing undecided when you force them. In real life though, folks, you don't force them. They either write in somebody, okay, or they don't vote. So in the future, when we're doing head-to-heads, we are doing the following. One will be the typical format it always is, with and without Cornel West. The other will straight up be a write-in option. And then the other will be, I would not vote, and then undecided. We are going to do it the way that a real ballot is set up, because I'm going to show you the bloated levels of undecideds and someone else's that are in the hypotheticals with other candidates not named Donald Trump, because that's what's going on. And then once we remove them from the electorate, we could say, okay, the electorate would be this much smaller, and this is what it would really be, which would push, like in the case of DeSantis or Vivek or whomever, it would push their supports higher, because we're going to be removing those people. So it would push their supports higher. And that's how we're going to do it from now on. All right. Other polls will continue to be like 39 Biden, 36 DeSantis, or 35 was premise poll the other day. And I'm going to show you he did very poorly in this poll. In the future, we're going to do it the other way. And we can show it all. But we'll give people, the more information we give people, I believe, the better. Let's move on to this. I would vote for the party's nominee. Only 59% of Donald Trump's voters, 59.2%, and he is the biggest sample, said that they would do that. Ron DeSantis, 81.4%. However, you will see of people who pick DeSantis, almost every single one of them votes for Donald Trump in the end when you do the hypotheticals. That is not true of Trump's voters. They'll either pick a third party or they'll say they're undecided. Some of them went to Cornel West in that version of the hypothetical. Mike Pence, you might notice, 38.2%. And of course, we're only talking about 70 people who chose Mike Pence at 1,000, right? But we've seen this with Mike Pence on and off, where he really is not a Republican candidate. He is one of these posers, and even worse, like a Bill Kristol. Like Bill Kristol would pick Mike Pence. Something like that, right? Or Chris Christie or something, right? You could see with Chris Christie's vote, almost all of them say, I'm going to vote for Biden. I mean, a lot of Mike Pence's votes said I would vote for Biden. At least with Vivek, Ron DeSantis, and Donald Trump, they're not exactly swapping over to Joe Biden. There are some that will, but they're not. I mean, it's not at all major. Everyone else, I mean, there's, other than the top three candidates, these guys have so few respondents. You're talking about such a small sampling error. I don't want to draw too much out of it, although I will say, like, at least with these three, you can look at it and say, damn, if it got bigger, or these four actually, if it got bigger, would it really change? Because you can see this 27 for Christie, 25 for Scott, but even 19 of the 25 who said they were going to vote for their choice is Tim Scott, 76% still said they would vote for the Republican nominee. Notice that's almost lopsided completely when it comes to Chris Christie. So I don't want to ignore it totally because it's a small sample, but damn. Right? Laura's laughing, but damn. I mean, Mike Pence, Nikki Haley, these are not real Republicans. I'm sorry. They're just not. They're not modern era Republicans. They're a fringe wing that is an ancient wing. And if you look at their age, God forgive me, they'll be dead inside 10. Most of them. I mean, we all die. I've been contemplating my own mortality lately, quite in depth. Now that I'm about to turn, well, I went over the big 40 last year. 41 now, I'll be 42 soon. I've been contemplating it myself, so I'm not trying to insult anybody. It's just a reality. If, like, you were trying to project what the world would be like or the electorate would be like 50 years from now, you're certainly not going to include me. I'll be dead. So no offense, folks, if you get offended. Look, let's just draw our attention to the elephant in the room. I would write in, and your choice, right? That's the different choices. 28.7% out of 724 responses said that they would write Donald Trump's name on the ballot. I just heard a bunch of people go, that would be me. 4%, another 4% said they would not vote at all. So combined, about a third of Donald Trump's vote is gone. And for people who say, oh, it's a cult, it's not a cult. We'll be nesting the crosstabs to show you very soon. A ton of them are people who are the textbook version of the Obama-Trump voter. Others are a independent bloc that just doesn't vote for anybody but Donald Trump. That's it. They don't disagree with Republican partisans who are supporting other candidates that the Democratic Party is a threat to the country. It's not like they disagree with that. They just disagree that any other one of these candidates or the Republican Party in general is the savior of the country. And can you blame them? Kevin McCarthy already buckled on the new spending deal. He already buckled on it. Did that include defunding Jack Smith? No. Did that include removing certain people from positions that are abusing their authority and their power? Oh, no. What it did include was greater spending for Democrats, left-wing projects for Democrats. They're chumps. Why on earth would you fault these people? You don't talk to them like I talk to them, folks. Like, if you're like my buddy Kurt Schlichter out there, like, you don't listen to them the way I listen to them. These aren't cult-like figures. They just, unlike you, do not believe if Ron DeSantis was elected president, anything would change. The same is true of everybody else. They do not believe that Ron DeSantis would make things fundamentally different or better for them. In the Rust Belt, it's just so obvious. They're so, this cult thing and this big problem that DeSantis can't, had from the beginning was that they fundamentally bought into the media narrative that Trump voters are stupid. And then here I am listening to all these things and other people. And I mean, I could show you some of these because we transcribe this stuff. I should start showing you these things. I tried to word cloud it, but I'm not very good at word clouds and like the stupid, irrelevant words, always show up in the word cloud, and it's just ridiculous. But in any event, it's such a common theme when you're polling like the Midwest, for instance. They're not dumb at all. He supported TPP, I remember. Wow. He was for intervention in Ukraine, I remember. Wow. They're not dumb people. You just thought they were. Because you have to worry about getting stains out of early 19th century French wallpaper. Anyway, so this is the end of the Republican Party. That's what you're looking at. That's not hyperbolic. This is the end of the Republican Party. It's over. It's a wrap. This isn't Ross Perot taking a bunch of, stuff from, taking a bunch of voters and groups from George Herbert Walker Bush. And then, 8 years later, or even during the Republican Revolution in 94, they get a bunch of them back. No. This is it. This is the Republican Party no longer exists as a national party. They are a regional party with very limited appeal to some places in the Bible Belt and plain states like Wyoming. It's a great example. They could even lose to Dakota and a Nebraska, something like that, or Kansas if they have a bad cycle. They get crushed all throughout the Northeast like they always do. They go back to almost losing Florida or losing it. The West is just gone, baby, gone. Because in order to keep Arizona or Nevada competitive or even win them in the future, you have to keep those America First Hispanics. You're not going to win back the suburban educated white woman. You're chasing a fairy tale. I'm so, I'm so sick of listening to these simpletons. if you really believe that, and that's what you're basing all of the assumptions you're making about the election and everything. If you believe the suburban educated woman thing, then, narrative, then you're not at all a smart person. Sorry. You certainly think you're smart, but you're not. And the rest of us are like laughing to your face now. All right. So there you have it. We're going to take a real quick short break again, and we'll come back and we'll look at the Democratic nomination and then the same thing with that, and then wrap it all up with some of the general election head-to-heads, which we are going to talk more about on Friday because there's just so much that needs to be said about it, along with, again, who makes up this America First coalition? Who even makes that up? And can the Republican Party afford to even lose them come this upcoming cycle? Forget about it, this upcoming cycle. Forever. Can they afford to lose them? Ever. All right, let's take a look at our friends at Jam and Bean. Patriot owned, great company, COVID patriots, like I say all the time. And right now, I mean, they have some great offers right now, and you can use some of them to really get a fantastic deal. Jam and Bean, you go there right now. Laura's got it up on the screen. Use the promo code TPP40 for any new subscription that you can shop right there, whether it's K-Cups or you like personally to grind up the beans that are freshly, deliciously roasted yourself, or gourmet popcorn. And we have I want to show you some stuff in a second. Actually, I'm going to show you them, but whatever it may be, when you're getting the subscription and you're checking out, use the promo code TPP40, and that will unlock 40% off right off the jump. And then the beautiful thing about it is every renewal, every month, you're still going to get 10% off just from being a People's Pundit listener, viewer, etc. Let me show you this cool stuff. Actually, they sent me. It's really, I'm not going to lie. I've been eating them. All right. They also have these really cool free dried candy because I love candy, but I can't eat candy anymore. Right. This is a free dried Starburst. Legit tastes like a Starburst. It really does. Tastes exactly like Starburst. They're Skittles. Legit tastes like Skittles. Kid you not. 100%. They're delicious. But this is really, for me, one of their biggest accomplishments. I love freshly roasted coffee, but I don't always have time to make it, especially in the middle or later in the day when I need a little bit of an extra pick-me-up. So I'm a dark roast guy, but once in a while, I'll take that medium body later in the day. Actually, quite a bit. Right? They are the only ones, when you're on the run and you need a K-Cup, they are the only ones with the R&D in to make a true full-bodied medium roast K-Cup. Everything else, if you go to your local grocery store and get, it's not a real medium roast. And in many of them, what you will find if you rip them open is a disgusting little wafer that is there to basically save space. And God knows what that's doing to you when you run boiling water through it and drink it. It's disgusting. Disgusting. Not a Jam and Bean. One more time. jamandbean.com, promo code TPP40 at checkout. All right. Great company. Great guys. Super talented. Super, super talented. And they just keep coming up with these impressive. I mean, most of you already know you bought the popcorn from them. It's insane. Insane good. Organic gourmet popcorn that's actually affordable. Their syrup is also delicious. They came up with a new syrup, but I think my kids drank it already. The Artisan Gold is amazing. Or just they didn't drink it. They use it on pancakes. It's amazing. They're certainly, what's the word, Laura? Creative. All right. And she's saying, pay attention. Don't forget, check the chat out. Check the chat out, Laura. Okay. You said check the chat out. You check it out too. All right, I'll do it though for you. Cynic in chief. How does Vivek getting second complicate the RNC plans to screw Trump? Can they still get DeSantis somehow and screw over Vivek? Wow, Cynic, actually, that's a great question. That's an amazing question. It does complicate their plans because they are expecting somebody to get, and here, we'll go over the Democratic support after we look at that, but they're expecting him to be the one who has the second highest number of delegates. But as we pivot out of Iowa, where I don't expect Vivek will do very well, although at this point he could surpass He could be the new Marco Rubio kind of candidate. For sure, that could happen because Marco Rubio's had a little bit of conservatives, but mostly was moderate, and in more urban areas of Iowa, which aren't many, but they're there. And that's how Rubio got third. I could see him possibly squeezing in a third place, passing Tim Scott, spending a lot of money there, though. A lot of money. But as we pivot out of Iowa, DeSantis would have killed himself no matter how he performs in Iowa. He's dead in the water in New Hampshire. Even South Carolina, even though they tell the exit poll, I'm very conservative, this much percent. In truth, they are a more moderate electorate. That's why he's in now, what, fourth in South Carolina? Robert Cahaly put out. Robert Cahaly, that's originally his native home, or his native state. His home state now is Georgia. But the guy knows South Carolina. He's done very well polling South Carolina primaries. And the primary looks over. I mean, it's over. The margins that Trump has in the Cahaly poll makes South Carolina a winner-take-all, even though it is a winner-take-most hybrid, because the at-large delegates are going to the winner, and the district delegates do have a winner-take-all provision. And if you look at that size lead, he clearly has a lead in every single congressional district, from the urban districts to the rural, and including the suburban. I hate to tell everybody. So it complicates things, because later in the process, Vivek could run up easily more delegates if he starts to surpass DeSantis. The one thing is, and you got to watch out for this, there will be thresholds. So in many of the polls in South Carolina, for instance, in New Hampshire, there's a 10% threshold in New Hampshire. If he doesn't get above 10%, he won't get any delegates. If he doesn't get above 20% in South Carolina, he won't get any delegates, unless nobody gets above 20. But we know that that's not going to happen, because Trump will get above 20. So, that's the way, that's the way the cookie crumbles. We'll just have to see, because moving on, it's going to get to a point where Trump's lead is so big, he's going to make these contests winner take all, even when they're not. And then we move into the winner take all, which he will take. Look at Georgia. Look at that latest Georgia poll. What a disaster for the DeSantis campaign, who got Brian Kemp's nod. So just a total disaster. I was a non-voter with my head in the sand. He was my first vote, and now I'm in my 40s now. DFA, 100%. Before Trump, I was a non-voter with my head in the sand. He was my first vote, and I'm in my 40s now. You are one of the most important voting blocks in the country, and one of the most important that Republicans, because it is people like you, Darafe, that are going to offset the slide with the educated college female suburban voter. They're not coming back in the numbers that Republicans think they can. They're not. They need Darafe to counter them. And that's the way that equation is going to be for a long time. All right. Let's pop this back up. So here we have Joe Biden hitting 70 for the first time in our poll, and Robert Kennedy Jr. at 12. Marianne Williamson completely collapsed to 3.2%. Someone else, 6.4. Unsure, no opinion, 9.3. You may remember that Marianne Williamson was not that far behind Robert Kennedy in some of our polls here and there, like in two of them. Now she is way behind. And, Kennedy is actually doing better with females than men. I'm not sure, you're looking at a 2.8 sampling error. It's right there. I'm not sure how much that matters. What I will say is this. By age, Kennedy does better with the middle working aged Democratic voters. You could see Joe Biden is not giving up the young vote. He's just not. But the middle, the heart is going, it's still going to Biden, but he gets more out of it. Let's go just straight up to some race situations here. He is making inroads with black voters, which is very, very important. He's also making inroads with Hispanics and Latinos. However, he fell about 5 points among whites. Had he held that and then increased his share of non-white voters, he would have posted a solid 15, maybe even 16%, depending on his white vote. But he fell with the white vote. Even Asian, he ticked up a little bit. You can see some of the stuff. This is his problem, though. Most of his support is coming from not Democrats, where he's only got about 9%,
but independents, others, and Republicans who are eligible to participate in open primaries. And that's going to be an issue for him because they're front loading closed primary states. They're front loading states where Joe Biden did better because it's non-white. So there is how can I put this? A rumor. Yes, let's call it a rumor. There is a rumor that some of the internal Democratic polling does show Robert Kennedy doing much better in South Carolina, and that a lot of his increase among black voters is coming from Southern blacks who live in urban areas. And I can see that because they hated the vaccine. They hated the mandates. If you remember our polling, that's exactly who I'd expect Robert Kennedy to get, frankly. All right. So the problem is, though, he's just not cracking into liberals. And he's doing better with moderates and conservative Democrats, which there just aren't that many of anymore. So he needs to broaden it into. It's just that, folks, it's a very difficult task. Why does this matter? We don't really need to get into it. I'm just trying to show you some stuff. He does better with some college and associate degrees and no college than he does with college voters. Does this make sounding familiar to you? All right. The underclass he's doing better with until it gets to the 200 or more, which I think is important. I'm going to tell you why. Same thing. A lot of disenfranchised people. I'm unemployed. I'm not looking anymore. So basically, I've quit on the American dream. He's winning 21% of them. The disabled, 16. Okay. He's getting crushed with students, which is a Democratic base, and that's a problem. Part-time employment, 16%. He's not cracking much into the union vote, which is a problem for him. It's a Democratic primary. He is doing better with people who are older. That's why you see widowed, divorced, separated, better than married. Right? Same thing with people who have kids that are not yet school age. Slightly worse than people who do have kids that are under 18 and in school. Catholic vote, not much better than the Protestant vote. Other religions is his best vote at 20. All right. Evangelicals, 14% versus non, which is no, there are, believe it or not, evangelical Democrats. There are. That's why pollsters in the media and university, when they show you evangelicals, they only ever show you white evangelicals. Okay. Which I'll show you actually myself. I'll nest one for you. In the suburban area, he's doing better than anywhere else, which is interesting. Again, notice his strength in the South. It is, so we're confirming some of the rumors, I guess I'm saying, that some of the black Southern vote, that's urban particularly and suburban, I guess, as you can see there, is really where he's starting to make inroads. Okay, but the certain to vote is slightly less. He needs to get these possibles out, about 30% likelihood of voting, and that's a tough one. You know, he does take some Trump voters, and he takes about 9% of people who voted for Joe Biden in 2020. So he's breaking into some. It's just not enough. Same amount with new voter or not. All right. So why does this matter? Let's go to Democrat candidate specific support. Remember those groups. Let's go to the Democratic nomination and cross them. Let me zoom in here so people can see a little bit better. All right. We all know who Trump's strongest vote is, right? And you saw who was getting a lot of that same vote. And that's some of the areas Robert Kennedy's breaking into. I would consider voting for the Republican nominee. 31.4% of Robert Kennedy Jr.'s vote said that they would consider voting for the Republican nominee. I mean, that's almost 2 points nationally. That's about 1.5 points in the national. I mean, Bernie Sanders' crossover support in 2016 was so important to Donald Trump. He wouldn't have won Michigan without it. A little bit harder to say that of Pennsylvania. I mean, it certainly helped, but in Pennsylvania, he just won. He just beat Hillary. In Wisconsin, same thing. He just beat her. But in Michigan, and by the way, he beat them. He beat her, because those voters buffed it out of the margin of fraud. Can we be for real? I mean, you can't afford to lose 12% of Bernie Sanders voters in the state of Michigan. You just can't. Here, Bernie did not have as many people cross over percentage-wise, but he had a larger share of the vote. All right. So Kennedy doesn't have as large of a share of the vote in the Democratic nomination. So the higher this number, the closer it'll get to seeing a similar effect that we saw in 16 with Bernie. Do you understand what I'm saying? So there's percentages, and then there are what the total votes that percentage reflects. This is getting to a point now because Kennedy's starting to reach into some of these important voting groups that it could very, very significantly impact the outcome of the 2024 election in key battleground states. Think if he's doing better in the South among African Americans, think North Carolina, think Georgia, okay? And then even in the Midwest is where he was getting some more of that. I mean, the Northeast, shockingly, not as strong as I thought for him. It's the Midwest, which is really doing it. All right. So, I mean, the South and then the Midwest. So you can see here that Biden, most of his votes, just like the other Republicans not named Trump, most of them would vote for the Democratic nominee no matter who it is. But 7% would consider voting for the Republican nominee. 11% would vote third party if it wasn't Biden. And 20% would vote third party if it's not Robert Kennedy. Same thing with Marianne Williamson, by the way. I mean, she's very, very, very small now. She's collapsed, but a lot of her vote is still going all over the place. Would it consolidate behind Biden in the end? I mean, obviously, I think it would. At least most of it would. But I am not sure when it comes to RFK. In fact, I'm pretty sure it would not. I'm pretty sure that Biden is not going to get a lot of those votes. All right, so I would not vote at all. It would be 7% if it wasn't Joe Biden. 4% said the same of Robert Kennedy. But again, the real issue is, you got 3% write-in for each. Notice nobody, this is why it is significant. You should believe Trump's voters who say I would write him in. You don't see it with anyone else. You think they're lying? Disbelieve them at your own peril. I'm telling you. Rona, Jeff, Michael, the Murdochs, the Duceys, the Killameeds, the Ingrams, the McCarthys. Talking to you fools. You already led the party into mass suicide. You want to do it again? Worse? On a worse scale? Iraq. Oh, wait. 2012. You think McCain lost badly? McCain lost Indiana, by the way. He almost lost Missouri. Without those votes, you're going to lose both of them. You're going to lose both of them. You are. You could. Absolutely. I think you're going to lose Indiana. You're definitely going to lose North Carolina. You're going to lose Georgia. You're going to lose Arizona. You're going to lose Pennsylvania. You're going to lose Michigan. You're going to lose Wisconsin. You're probably going to lose Iowa, which without Donald Trump on the ballot votes to the left of Ohio. You may hold on to Ohio. Probably not. I've seen this a million times. Without the Northeast, look at what happened with Ohio issue 1. Without the Northeast being Trumplican, you can't win Ohio. And the Northwest and the Southeast. I mean, it's just everywhere. It's everywhere. You think you're going to push up against Toledo in the Northwest without Donald Trump? I don't. You think you're going to win the Appalachia in the Southeast? I don't. I think it's going to look like an Obama-level win over McCain and Romney. That's what I think it's going to look like. Iowa, I think, is going to be like Biden plus 6. You want my honest opinion? Let me explain what I really think that looks like. I should put out a map because we ran some figures just to see what it would be in Michigan, because I think Michigan is the hardest of the competitive Rust Belt states to win. I did. It was Biden plus 13.5 points. 13.4. I don't even know what to say. Let's move on. Let's get into it. Let's go back to all. Let's get into it. Like I said, we're going to do this next time so the vote margins aren't as low. We're going to add the write-in option, and we're also going to add the I would not vote option. So we give those people who told us that a chance to opt out. Okay. Someone else came down a little bit this month. Trump has a 1-point lead. It is very close. Very, very close. It is from him coming down a little bit with females and with him the narrowing of males. But, honestly, there are more females undecided. When you look at who those undecideds are, it's a richer target for Donald Trump. It's a richer target. His lead is small nationally, but this is almost assuredly an electoral college win. And when we look at the age groups, he is very close with young voters outside of the 18 to 24. The 25 to 29 continues to astonish me. He did lose some ground with the 40 to 49s this month, but again, much closer than it always is. And then, interestingly, among seniors, he widened his lead back out. Look at the New York Times poll. Seniors 65 was actually Biden +2. In the exit polls from 2020, Trump won seniors, but just barely. He didn't win them that much at all. He lost ground with seniors. And that is, to me, a big deal. If seniors are going to go back to Donald Trump, having this panic attack, I can't believe this is happening in my country. I think that's what's pushing them back to him in some great degree. I do. And then he does better with the 45 to 64, which he is. That's the biggest group in the electorate, period. Then that's a real problem for Joe Biden. All right, so I'm going to show you different scenarios with and without Cornel West. All right, leading with white voters, Hispanics got a little bit more pro-Biden this time. Please take note of the black vote, which everyone keeps going, oh, that's ridiculous. It's not ridiculous. He won 12% in 2020 after winning 8% or 6% or something. I don't even know what's said in the exit polls in 2016. He doubled his support with black men, and he more than doubled it with black women. It is not at all impossible. Younger black voters like Donald Trump more every year that this goes on. And then with other non-white voters, Donald Trump leads. All right. Looking at Democrats and Republicans, I mean, it's less than a sampling error, so it doesn't really matter. They both have roughly the same base support. They roughly both have the same crossover loss. Trump leads with independents by 6. Liberals, Trump takes 10. Conservatives, Biden takes 13. Moderates, Biden is winning, but he is not winning them by the 2-1 margin that he won them in 2020. High school or less, Trump leads. Some college associate, Trump leads. 4-year degree is 48 to 37. Advanced and post-grad is actually slightly better for Trump now than it was in 2020 at this point. So Biden, in our polling, would win post-grads. No joke. In some of the polling, 3-1. Under 30K, the underclass has shifted significantly to Donald Trump, and it is now basically tied, which is just incredible. The 30 to 50,000, Trump leads. 50 to 100,000, which is a core for Republicans, Trump leads. 100 to 200,000, Biden leads. 200 or more, Biden leads. Unemployed full-time is very close. It's like a 1 point for Biden. Part-time is also Biden. Unemployed looking, slightly for Biden. Unemployed not looking is big for Donald Trump. Disabled is big for Donald Trump. Student is closer than it was in 2020, and retired is big for Donald Trump. So very, very close. Union vote looking close to 2020, a little bit worse for Biden, but not much more. The union no vote is several points better. I think it's 5 or 6 points better for Donald Trump. The union type, you can see private. Trump made some gains back, but the public is still a bloodbath. That's the most liberal vote, a Democratic vote out there, I would say. All right. Married is Trump by 5. Widowed is Trump by 14. Divorced is Trump by 5. Separated is Trump by 1. And single is Biden by, 14 points. I have kids over the age of 18 is, again, a pro-Trump vote. 1 or more school-age children is actually Biden. That's actually been a trend for a while. Not yet school-age, slightly Biden. No is Biden. So Probably these are so small. I mean, this will probably reshuffle. We don't know the way that they ask it with exit polls. They just say, are you a parent or not? We like to dig a little bit more deeper. Protestant is a Trump vote, obviously, but it's bigger than it was last time. But Catholic went back to Biden by a few points. Jewish is always Biden. Muslim is always Biden. Another religion, however, is Trump. No religion is Biden. Evangelical, obviously, is Trump, and it's Trump by a big margin. If we did white evangelical, Trump is probably going to be winning 80 to like 15. It's huge. And then no opinion, won't say, is Trump. Urban areas, this is very interesting. Trump is ahead in the suburbs by 2. He's way ahead in the rurals, which, this is one of the examples I used in the article pushing back on unskew the polls. Republicans always underperform in the suburbs in polling, always. This time, you could very clearly see that it is closer anyway to a more realistic vote in the rural area. Trump, again, up in the suburbs and doing respectively in urban areas, and Biden doing extremely poor in urban areas. He's winning, but he's only winning by 24 points. It's not significant at all. Northeast goes back to Biden, although it's not exactly strong. The Midwest is Trump. South, obviously, is Trump. And the West is 3 points Biden. And a lot of that can do with what states are making up which ones. However, again, if we tighten the voter screen, Trump would be up by 2. And it would be 45 to 43 Trump. As we get closer, we'll do that. I just don't want to screen people out too early. A lot of pollsters are doing that. So when you see Quinnipiac, like Biden +1, 47 to 46, their screen is tight. And in 16, you might have noticed our levels were always lower. Same thing in 2020. Our levels of support were always lower until right up into the election. There really are people that are flirting with the idea of voting or not, and you don't know right at that point. So I'd rather have levels like this now than screen people out and miss them, which is what a lot of people did in 2016. A lot of people would have been right if they would have believed the voter, but they didn't, and they screened a lot of them out because they made their own assumptions. You can see more people who voted for Joe Biden say they would vote for Donald Trump than vice versa. Trump holds more of his 2020 vote, 3 points more of his 2020 vote than Joe Biden does. He also leads slightly among those who voted for Joe Jorgensen and leads overwhelmingly among those who voted for somebody else. All right? It's big deal. But again, this to me is a really big deal because if you were to take this and make it a smaller sample, all right, and it would be 2,362 likely voters instead of 2,765. You would see a lot of difference in the subgroups, in the different demographics. Things would change. In fact, if you want, I'll do that. I'll take only certain people and show you the difference. And we'll talk, if I can do it before Friday, which I'm sure I can, we'll talk about what it would look like, what the difference would be if we did that. Okay. Because we talked to almost 2,900 voters. It says so in the public cross-tab. Let me get exactly how much it was. 2,824 who we knew were registered and eligible. And then 2,765 we dubbed likely. That's how loose the voter screen is right now. Okay. It probably would in real life, when the end of the day comes down to it, when we get to the period right before the election, we're probably going to be talking about roughly 2,400. Which is still incredibly high turnout, but that probably is the more likely end result. It's just I'm not doing it just yet. Not just yet. All right, let's look at with Cornell West. We don't have to go through all the different demographics because, God, it's already 1:30. It's already time for another segment here. Then Trump takes a 3-point lead against Joe Biden when Cornell West is on the ballot. All right, Trump is he bumps up a point if you're rounding to 43. Joe Biden is at 40. Cornell West takes 2.5%, so about 3%. Someone else still takes 8.4. Undecided 6.4. The one thing I would like to look at with this is the 2020 vote. which was very close. It was like 50 Biden, 48 Trump or something like that. Very close. People lie. So you don't want to wait for 2020 vote share. Plus, if you do, how could you possibly wait 2020 vote share if you have new voters in your sample? You can't. So here you can see that Trump maintains a small crossover lead with you voted for Joe Biden, but now I'm going to vote for Donald Trump. There are more people who say that of Trump than Biden. So Trump is gaining more of that, even though it's been tighter than some of our other polls. Trump holds much more of his base, and Biden loses 3 points to Cornel West. Trump only loses a point. Some do. Joe Jorgensen loses 11 points, but then you can see if you look at the Jorgensen vote, Biden was closer without West on the ballot. This time, Trump just crushes him 3-1, and Cornel West gets 11% of her vote. 48% still goes to whoever else is the third party. So these are libertarians telling me they're going to vote for whoever is the libertarian candidate. Okay. Someone else, the third party vote. Again, Trump still has a lot bigger lead than Biden does. He literally takes it 5-1. West gets 8% of people who voted for, like Don Blankenship and other people are on the ballot. Very small, but in a close election, every damn vote counts. Believe that. And by the way, Trump has a 44-42 lead in the tighter likely voter screen here. So actually, odd, right? It is. It is very odd. Now let's do what is going to inevitably. Let's take a break before we do it. Inevitably, what's going to happen after I go through this is I'm going to hear a bunch of DeSantites bitching about how bad he's doing. It is not my fault that your candidate is doing poorly. It's your fault. You should have listened. You didn't listen to anybody's advice. Now you're in a total free fall. It's nobody's fault but your own. Don't get mad at me. Yes, your candidate really is performing that badly. All right. When we look at some of these groups, especially racial groups, a lot of these other demographic groups I want to go over, you will see why. All right. Hold on one second. I don't have time to heat it up. Yeah, hopefully Laura gets this message. I spelled totally wrong, Laura. Don't mock me. I was doing it quick because I need to go to the commercial break. All right, let's do it. All right, back to our friends at 4Patriots. Again, threats to the power grid, they're real. Substations, if 9 of them went down, it would knock out power across the country for up to 18 months. It certainly could. We have weather events. Our leaders are incompetent. That's why you need a solar generator. Even if, like Laura and I, you have a natural gas or another power generator. The Patriot Power Generator 2000X, in the new one, is portable, but it's incredibly powerful. Powerful enough to power your phones, medical devices you or your loved ones may have, and even your refrigerator. If you go to 4Patriots right now, you can get one. If you go to 4patriots.com, use the promo code TPP10, you can get 10% off. They have a great deal, which I'm showing you. This is the Freedom Fridge, but that's the generator up there. The Patriot Power Generator 2000X is the one you're looking for. They have incredible deals right now on all the different ones, solar panels, etc., and it will stack with the discount code. This code is only good for your first purchase only, although it's for anything other than the generator. But since it is for your first purchase, make it count. Stack one of those deals with the Patriot Power Generator 2000X and use the promo code to get 10% off. All right. Again, one more time, 4patriots.com, promo code TPP10 at checkout. All right, back to the crosstab. I'm trying to get as much done as we can because on Friday, there's so much more to talk about. Here we go. Let me get a... Oh, I got no water up in here? That's all right. I'll take some coffee. Mouth's just a little dry. Boy, that coffee was good, Laura. I normally... She like foam something or something? I don't know. With cinnamon? Is that a little dash of cinnamon? All right, here we go. As you can see, Joe Biden leads Ron DeSantis by 6 points. It is no bueno. This is almost part of it is there are some who say, I would vote for Trump, but I would vote for Joe Biden. I think it's about, I don't know, 4%, something like that. It's low. Really, what this is coming down to is the Trump or bust vote. Even if we were to take them out and put them in a different model, like we were telling you we're going to do in the future, I would refuse to vote or I would write in. You would get, I don't even want to estimate yet until our new poll comes out. Maybe a very, very small third party vote, not as big as you would think, because a lot of it would just be a write in for Trump. Another 4% would not vote. 10% would be undecided still. So, you're looking at without allocating undecideds, folks, you're looking at close to like a 51 to 45. No, it would be worse than that. It would. Maybe 46-40, something like that, close to it. Because of the write-in vote would just be too much. It would be too much. Yeah. Maybe 44-38. Something like, actually, it would be closer to 44-38. Yeah. It's still, worse than Bill Clinton beat Herbert Walker Bush. It would be bad. Really, really bad. Let's go down to, where's race? Remember Trump, he got 20% of the black vote. He gets like double what DeSantis gets. He outperforms DeSantis among Hispanics by nearly double digit. His white vote is only +4. Do I have to say anything else? It's a disaster. It's a total disaster. As you can see, Biden actually takes a little bit more of the Republican vote, and that's because of, like I said, the 4%, 3.5 or something that's would vote for Trump, but then would vote for Biden. It's like the Obama-Trump voter, which, by the way, is disproportionately in like Midwestern battlegrounds. That's a freaking disaster. Biden leads DeSantis among his independents. Trump led among his, 6 or 7 points, something like that. Well, DeSantis is down by a point among independents, and he doesn't really have any crossover appeal, contrary to what you see all his bot accounts and his press secretary posing to somebody else claims in his counts. It's bad. The moderates are worse. He gets Trump outperforms him among some self-identified liberals by more than double. It's bad. Conservatives go to third party or undecided because a lot of them say they wouldn't vote. Ditto for the moderates, the independent moderates who only come out for Donald Trump. Look at how big that share is. It's a disaster, guys. It's a disaster. Let's go to area and region. Or actually, as you can see here, he's only ahead by 5 points among high school graduates or less. He's only ahead by a point among some college associates. You could argue, well, he's doing a point better with 4-year grads and post-grads. Who cares? That doesn't matter at all. I mean, the numbers are the numbers. The Republican vote comes from these two groups. A win comes from keeping this group at bay while winning these overwhelmingly. Enough to counter the 10-point loss with this. And actually he's doing worse with this group than Trump is. Excuse me. Sorry, I was wrong. That's a 15-point loss. And the advanced postgrads, I mean, you have to win these by such a margin that you're countering how bad you get killed by them and by advanced postgrads. And then, of course, the 4-year grads. Postgraduates were only 16% of the sample. So, it's not like this is overweighted. It's not. They're not like working class people. There's no degree of them that's underrepresented. Remember when I did tell you, though, that I thought that the non-college vote was a little bit younger? That's true. And Trump does better with younger people. So that could absolutely be impacting it. If you go back here, Trump was actually doing very well with the 18 to 24 group. Look at how bad DeSantis loses them by 27 points. That's why a lot of these unskew the poll people, that you're not being honest. Yes, Trump lost them by almost 30 points in 2020. Well, you are losing them by 30 points still, almost. Not Trump. So these people are saying, I would vote for Trump against Biden, but I would vote for Biden against DeSantis. They're saying that. So you can't unskew that. That's just the reality. 25-29, right? But the strength with 30 to 39s and 40 to 49s is just not there. The lead with the 50 to 64 is too small. 65 to 74 is too small. Super seniors is not enough. Yeah, he's winning with 65 plus, but only by a few points. That actually looks like Trump in 2020. And then the 45 to 64, which is the biggest age group, is a whopping 1/10 of a percentage point in favor of DeSantis. It's a catastrophe. There's no word for the. I don't know what's strong enough. Catastrophe, apocalyptic. It's Armageddon, dude. It's Armageddon. DeSantis is down in the suburbs by 3 points. He's up in the rurals, but not by a lot. So tell me, why is Trump at 60% almost in the rural vote and DeSantis is at 46? Trump is just over 30% in the urban areas, and he's got Biden down to 54. DeSantis is at 24.5%. And Biden is a point higher. So everywhere we look, it's not just. And by the way, look at the Catholic vote. Biden has a tiny lead within the subgroup sampling era over Donald Trump among Catholics. And which is a reversal from, it's like the lead Trump had last month with him, right? Now, and DeSantis is a Catholic, by the way. DeSantis has got a deficit that's outside the sampling era for subgroups. Outside, it's 10 points down, folks, almost. And his Protestant vote is not even in the 50s. In the Northeast, he's down 16. In the Midwest, he's down 5. In the South, he's down a point. This is a disaster. And he's down 10 points in the West. I don't even know what to say. Let's look at it with West on the ballot. Come on now. Notice I started talking about this and it's giving me an issue. It's brute force attack, probably. Kid you not. But that's all right, because I got a backup. I'm going to have to put it into that thing if this is going to do what it's going to do. If it's not going to load up, then give me a second. Let me give everyone else the other link. Backup time. I knew this was going to happen. The minute I started talking about it. You little babies. I swear. So pathetic. So we go to the spreadsheet. And we just look here. Load up, Google. Thank you. It's loading. Give it a hot second. All right. This is the way I see it, though. I actually should have used your share link, right? It would have seen it better. Oh, no. Am I showing you stuff? Nah, not really. It's okay. Let me look up the public one so you can see it the way you see it. All right, here we go. It also show more, I think. Or not show more, just show it more visible. Nah, it shows me what it is no matter what. All right, so here's DeSantis at 35 without Cornel West, and Biden's at 41. Biden falls to 40 without Cornel West, and DeSantis falls to 34. With Cornel West, and DeSantis falls to 34. So it's still a Biden +6 any way you slice it. It doesn't get any better. The age groups don't get any better. You can see that. The African-American vote is still at 12%. So it's respectable. That's what Trump got in 2020. Although, again, sampling errors for subgroups, he could easily get 7, Hispanics, 25%. At least his white vote goes to +4. The rest of them, et cetera, et cetera. About the same crossover between the two. Biden still leads by 2 with independents, however. He doesn't increase with liberals. Those go to Cornel West. It's just crap. It's a bad result. It is not the result you want. I'm trying to see if the area stuff matters. 147, we're getting close, so it doesn't really matter. But even the evangelical vote is just not very good. Biden falls a point. DeSantis falls a point between the two. You know, it is what it is, folks. It is what it is. And again, you can't unskew this. It goes from being a Biden +5 in the Midwest to a Biden +6. So West doesn't help DeSantis. He really doesn't. He helps him in the South a little bit by about a point. Not much. He hurts him in the West, which is something that's weird. We've been seeing that with everybody. It's not just DeSantis. And then it's not the entire region, but in like Arizona, third-party candidates actually hurt the Republican. Northeast hurts Biden by 2. That's about it. You know, I'm just not seeing any good news there. I'm not seeing any good news there. It's just an awful result. Republicans have no chance without Donald Trump. They have no chance. That's not like, I don't understand why people can't understand. That's an objective statement. It's not subjective. It's not my opinion. And I'm certainly not the only pollster to show this at this point. They have no chance without Donald Trump. They'll be eviscerated. They'll go the way of the Whigs. The dodo. The way of the dodo, baby. The way of the dodo. The blowback from them losing will be unbelievable. You think I'm not saying Trump is a shoo-in either. Don't get me wrong. I'm not even saying that. I'm just saying he's their only prayer. They don't have a snowball's chance in hell without him. And what we're seeing right now is a Trump win. And everybody knows that. What Quinnipiac is seeing is a Trump win. Quinnipiac was Biden +11 or 10, something like that. Maris, same thing. 1 point. Okay. Maris was Biden +10. YouGov, 1 point. Great. They were Biden, or no, Maris was Biden +11. YouGov was Biden +10. The New York Times is a tie. They were Biden +9. Everybody is seeing this. And what this amounts to is a Trump victory in the Electoral College. We were Biden +4. Now we're Trump +1. But then again, we're only a 5-point shift at now, even though last month it was like Trump +4. So it was an 8-point shift, very similar to everyone else. We have the race a little tighter. And again, if we would have done what I told you, a tighter screen and then the opt-out options, which the New York Times did, we're doing that going forward. You very clearly would see that it really would be like Trump 45, Biden 43 or 42. So it would still be a 6 to 7 point shift from 2020. Everybody sees it. And everybody also sees that DeSantis underperforms. And it's because of these certain groups. It's not, and honest here, one more thing before we talk about the debate a little bit. If this is the way it's going to be with Vivek Ramaswamy polling just as well as DeSantis, I see no justification for only polling hypotheticals with Ron DeSantis. That's unfair to other candidates who are polling at the same levels as him. If this continues, and everybody, the consensus of polling seems to agree, if it continues by the time we're ready to do our next national poll, which, by the way, will be in September, we're going to keep this up monthly as best as I can, then we will poll Vivek as well against Biden. Because I'm not going to play this game. I'm not playing the Rupert Murdoch game. He is not a higher tier candidate than Vivek if he's not polling at a higher tier candidate. Jeb Bush meant more than everybody, yet he was very clearly not as high of a tier as Ted Cruz, or hell, even Marco Rubio for a while. He was out. All right, one thing I want to bring up again, which I did play like a week or so ago. What do we expect for this debate, folks? Donald Trump will not be there. Tucker and Trump will be doing their thing. And these people living in another world, it's like the CNN gets Trump's ex-lawyer to come on and say, no one's going to watch that. What are you out of your minds? Tucker's worst interview gets 20 million views. That interview is going to do blockbuster numbers. But we will be watching the debate. We will be doing it because that's our job. And because DeSantis's debate strategy leaked, he's going to have to do something totally different, because if he did, he would have ran into a buzzsaw called Chris Christie. And the next day, we'll have the spin room, right? But the next day, Donald Trump and Rudy Giuliani are surrendering to Fannie Willis, the corrupt DA in Georgia, in Fulton County, Georgia. It will take all the oxygen out of the room. Will they try? Will they try to go back and forth between that and the debate? Sure, they will, but it's definitely different than just having the debate have all of the oxygen in the room. Vivek now will be right next to Ron DeSantis. All right. And while I'm playing this, let me see if I can find you the debate order. Let's see. Let's see if I can find it. Someone else has put it up, and I know I saw it. It showed who was where. Here we go. Here's Fox's first Republican debate. Oh my God, your images suck. All right. Let me show you it. I'm just going to put it up on the screen. I'm not going to, go through the thing of this is the way it will be viewed. All right. You have Ramaswamy in the basically frontier position along with Ron DeSantis. Next to Ron DeSantis, on his right, your left, will be Mike Pence, and Nikki Haley will be on Vivek's left, your right. Going down, you'll have Doug Burgum on your right on the end, Hutchinson on your left on the end, but then Chris Christie right there. Yes, he's off to the side of the stage, but he's only two podiums, so he's just 2 podiums away from Ron DeSantis. So Ron DeSantis originally, by the way, in Ron DeSantis's internal polling, Vivek has passed him. All right. That is what everyone is hearing. I haven't seen it, but I know people in the DeSantis camp and in the Trump camp, and they're both saying the same thing. So it would be very difficult now, after everything leaked, for DeSantis to turn to Ramaswamy and attack him by calling him fake Vivek, you're Soros this, you're that, and then try to defend Trump from the blows from Chris Christie. Even though they are going to have to shake it up because it leaked and everyone knows what to expect. Fundamentally, it still is the environment. That's still the dynamics of the race and the debate. So unless they're just going to have a no attack debate about policy, which should be ridiculous, because the only one up there, whether I listen, I'm not saying Vivek is the real deal or not. I've asked him to come on the show. I've asked his comms manager to to set it up, and she's got Laura's number. We'll see. I suspect a lot of these candidates are afraid of me. I'm not kidding, right, Laura? These candidates are afraid of me. They don't want to come on, even though I'm just a pollster. They're worried that I'm gonna be too hard on them. So I don't know if that's the case with Vivek or not, but I in the very beginning reached out, told everybody, that DeSantis, that Haley, Scott, they're all welcome on. I'll even have Chris Christie on. I bet you him and I would have an actual really funny conversation. We're both Jersey boys. Well, I was born in New York first, but certainly was raised most of the time in Jersey. We'd have a hell of a conversation and probably be a little bit heated, but I know he's got thick skin. So I'll try, whatever. It's an open invitation, Chris. Come on. We'll see, though. I'm not here to tell you whether a candidate's the real deal or not. I'm just here to tell you whether a surge is real or not. And Vivek is surging because of the policies that he's talking about and because of the stance toward Trump that he's taken. And if it does turn into a policy debate, Vivek is going to know Ron DeSantis supported every globalist trade policy that Paul Ryan told him to vote for. He's going to know about Ron DeSantis's history of pushing John Kerry, then Secretary of State, to engage in a coup in Ukraine. He's not a dumb man. So there's risk everywhere. So expect Ron to do well when he's not a good debater? I don't know. Matt Gaetz, he helped Ron get ready for a debate. He knows his skill level is not good. I was speaking to a woman who they brought in to help Ron learn to debate and got her impression as well. And they are not, neither one, she specifically is not expecting him to do well, especially under high pressure on the national stage like this. All it takes is one mess up, and you're going to get one of these.
You have not been involved in a consequential decision where you had to be held accountable. You just simply haven't. I want the people at home to think about this. That's what Washington, D.C. does. The drive-by shot at the beginning with incorrect and incomplete information, and then the memorized 25-second speech that is exactly what his advisors gave him. See, Marco, the thing is this. When you're president of the United States, when you're a governor of a state, the memorized 30-second speech where you talk about how great America is at the end of it doesn't solve one problem for one person.
This notion that Barack Obama doesn't know what he's doing is just not true.
There it is.
He knows exactly what he's doing.
The memorized 25-second speech.
Well, that's the reason why this campaign.
You know what the shame is? You know what the shame is, Marco? The shame is that you would actually criticize somebody for showing up to work, plowing the streets, getting the trains run back on time, when you've never been responsible for that in your entire life.
Now, what I think is a likely outcome of this debate, ladies and gentlemen, Chris Christie solidly takes second place. The voters in South Carolina are probably going to appreciate Tim Scott's articulate, nice guy look. I don't think he's going to get in the mud with anybody, But at the end of the day, I don't really care because it's not going to matter. I don't think Donald Trump is going to be hurt from this at all. I just don't. That's not... Listen, debates very rarely change the trajectory of races. Much more like there have been some, I can point to some. I think Reagan benefited from his debate against Carter. And to those who say this opens the door to allow Biden to say he's not going to debate is ridiculous. Look at the hiccups. Biden's not debating Kennedy. All right? He's not. And they both have roughly the same vote shares in the primary. It's not going to lead to that because if he did, that would make Biden look like a coward. Only like Chris Christie fans and DeSantis fans would agree that this makes Donald Trump look like a coward. Everybody in my business knows you don't let a guy with a 45-point lead debate. There's no point. Especially a guy who has a record, who was a president. This is insane. Everyone knows who Donald Trump is. He doesn't need to debate these people. They have 10% of the vote. Who cares? There are 5% undecided in this race. Almost 4 now. I'm rounding. Leaves the debate. I got news for you. They screwed Trump on the debate anyway in 2020. If they're going to do that to him again, they're going to do it to him again. They screwed him out of the debate that is historically the incumbent president's strongest and rebound debate. Barack Obama, rebound, second debate. Bill Clinton, rebound, second debate. George W. Bush, rebound, second debate. Why? It's the foreign policy debate. That's where the president looks like the president. It's also where Herbert Walker Bush looked at his watch like an idiot. So, there you have it. That's my prediction. It's not worth making a real prediction. That's my prediction. It's not going to matter. Outside of who may do better in second place in New Hampshire. Will it help Ron DeSantis in Iowa? I don't know. He's got all the religious leaders with him already. He's down by almost 50 points with evangelicals. In Iowa alone, he's down 30. He's in a free fall. To expect a debate performance from a person who's known as someone who's not a great debater, who's in a free fall because of fundamentals. He's in a fundamental free fall, not in a debate free fall, or some kind of news cycle free fall. He's in a free fall because of how he chose to run his campaign. He's in a Walker-like free fall. He's in a Jeb-like free fall. Worse, actually. Jeb Bush was polling higher than him. It's true, Laura. It took Walker and Bush longer than this before they collapsed. That's right. And Trump's rise was not due to the debates, although they were highly entertaining. Trump's rise started the moment he came down the escalator, and it's because he knew how to play the media. His media coverage, he was everywhere. He went on every network, and he said all the right things that everyone thought were the wrong things. on every interview he did. He was on TV multiple times a day. He campaigned like a bull. Nobody campaigned like Donald Trump. I've never seen it before. It wasn't a debate performance. It just reinforced why people were like, yeah, I think I am going to vote for this guy. All right. So with that in mind, it's 2:02. I'm out. We'll have some tidbits about it later tonight. And Friday we have a lot more we got to go over with this poll. All right. We scratched the surface of the numbers today, and we went a little bit inside the numbers. On Friday, we're going to go very deep inside the numbers. All right. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. Don't forget, sign up to Locals if you want to support the work we're doing. Now is the time. peoplespundit.locals.com. peoplespundit.locals.com. You can be a member first if you want, or just jump right in, be a supporter, and we'd greatly appreciate it. This poll was brought to you not by the way, any campaign, contrary to what idiots who support Ron DeSantis on Twitter have to say. This is a publicly funded poll. It is crowdsourced, and when it doesn't meet the crowdsourced target, it's sourced by Laura and I. We make up the difference with our own money. But mostly it's publicly funded always. Never funded by a candidate. Never. And I've never taken a dime from Donald Trump or any other candidate running for president. What a load of crap, you smear merchant piece of Anyway, you can support the Public Polling Project at the link in the description below. I think we're at like 92% funded. I haven't started another one yet. I will soon, but we'll see if we can get to 100 just so, we meet the 100 goal, and then that will be applied. All right. But yes, definitely, like Laura's putting up on the screen, join the revolution at peoplespundit.locals.com because that helps us when it doesn't meet that target. All right. Still, nevertheless, publicly funded. Thanks for watching, folks. We will see you later tonight, and we'll see you on Friday. All the best. Thanks for watching Inside the Numbers. And of course, special thanks to our thank you, Laura, sponsors. jamandbean.com. Use the promo code TPP40. Get 40% off your new subscription. And of course, for Patriots, TPP10 at checkout. Get yourself a solar generator, the Patriot Power Generator 2000X today. See you soon, folks. Thanks for watching.